So let's get into this. Howdy, thanks for stopping by. I have a bunch of shirts that I am going to be dyeing up, and I'm going to start. I may do about 3 or 4 shirts, tying them at a time and then dyeing them right after that. I may go just 1-to-1, tie one shirt up and then dye one shirt. I'm not too sure how it's gonna work, but yeah, let's get started with it. So I have these 100% cotton shirts that have been soaked in a soda ash solution. They're just a little bit damp. And for this design, I think that I'm going to go with the front out first, and then I'm going to fold it into almost thirds. And then I'll do a fan fold off of these. I'm gonna make this one just a little bit smaller or shorter, and bring this one down a little bit more. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to just fan fold going straight up, or at an angle up. I get my initial fan fold just right here, and then I just kind of extend it going out. And I have some rubber bands next to me somewhere that I will be securing the folds as I'm going through them. So let me get the sleeve done up. I think I'm going to do something about like that. Put a rubber band on here. There you go. Now I can just kind of continue folding it without fear of losing the sleeve folds. And I have 12 shirts that have a pocket in them. I'm doing a special order for a friend that just said, give me a bunch of pocketed shirts that are tie-dyed, so that's what I will be doing. Or that's what I am doing right now. They've been washed. Whenever I get a shirt, I will wash it, and then I will soak it in a soda ash solution. I spin out the soda ash solution, and I will put the shirt or whatever piece I'm doing in the dryer, and I will check it every so often until it is at the dampness that I want it at. And these aren't super damp or super wet, but they do have some liquid in them still. They're not completely dry. I'll probably end up breaking a few rubber bands as I go through this, but that happens in tie-dye. Sometimes I will just stretch the rubber band a little too much, but that's why I have extra rubber bands. Let me put on a couple more. And then when I start dyeing them, about an hour and a half ago, I mixed up some dye powder with water, and I try and use my dyes within 12 hours of mixing them with water. There's one rubber band down. I'm trying a little bit different setup today than the last time that I tried a live stream, so here's the shirt. Now let's change cameras, and I'm going to move my laptop camera a little bit so I can show you my dyeing station. Then I'm putting on gloves now, and I have the rainbow kind of in front of me, so I'm gonna bring these bottles down so they're a little bit easier for me to access. And for this design, I'm going to do the rainbow and black going all the way across it. So I have red, orange, yellow, blue, green, and purple. And this is Procion MX Fiber Reactive Dye, and then I also have some black. And it's been mixed with water about an hour and a half ago, so what I'm going to do to start, hopefully you can see everything. I may want to move my camera up just a little bit more. Alright, so you can see most of it now. So I have some red. I'm going to put the black closer to the edge, and actually I'm going to turn around. This is the side that I started with, and the sleeve is right here. It kind of goes around itself, and I'm going to start just on this edge, or maybe not edge, but this is about the edge of the shirt that I'm going to reference right now. And I'm going to start with red, and then I have some black. I'm going to put some black on both sides of the red. I'm trying not to get the black on top of the red. It will happen, but that's not really what I'm doing for this design. So there's some black. Now I have some orange. I'll be putting some orange next to the black on both sides, on this black and this black. I'm not going to worry about the other side of the shirt right now. I'm going to do that in a little bit after this side's all done. There is the orange. Now I'll go back to black, and I will put black next to the orange. And initially, for just the start of this, I'm not completely concerned about the penetration or the saturation of the dye into the fabric. I will do that as I put a little more of the dye on the shirt, but I'm just trying to get the placement of the dye where I want it to. So there is the yellow. Now I'm going to put black next to that. I'm going to use quite a bit of black on this design. There's black. Now I'm going to go to green. Let me, you can't really see me that well. Let's turn this up a little bit. There we go. Howdy. So here's some green. I'm putting that next to the black. And then I'm going to finish off this edge of the shirt with some green. And the way that I fold up the sleeve, the green will be a little bit thicker right there, but it'll barely even be noticeable. So next to the green, I will put some more black. And then next to that black, I will put some blue down. And I'm using different size dye bottles. I didn't want to use as much red, orange, and yellow. I have bigger bottles of blue, green, and purple, and then I have another color, a couple more colors of blue, and a small thing of green, and then some fuchsia. I'll be doing those on different designs as well. But for the rainbow, I have these 32-ounce bottles of green, blue, and purple, and then I have some 16-ounce bottles of yellow, orange, and red. And the last time that I did a stream, I just had these 32-ounce bottles. Now I'm doing raspberry. I had these 32-ounce bottles of all the colors of the rainbow, but I'm not going to be using that much red, orange, and yellow, and it'll just make the process go a little bit quicker. So I put down some purple. Now I'm going to put down some more black. And then I think I will just continue on the rainbow. So next to this black, I will put down red. Hopefully you can see okay what I'm doing. There's a new setup from what I did last time. I'm in my dyeing room right now, and I have a couple different webcams and then the webcam on my laptop. I'll be switching back and forth between the two different cams for the tying and the dyeing. Oh, and then I'm getting ahead of myself. I just put a little bit of red down. I meant to put orange, so that shouldn't matter too much when I open it up. There's some red, now some more black. I'll be putting yellow down next to the black, so I'm just going to finish off the very edge of the shirt with some black. Now I'll put down some yellow in between those two sections. And then I'm just going to put down more dye where I had put those colors down previously. So wherever I had the yellow, I'm just going to put down a little more yellow. I'm going to do that with all the colors right now. So wherever I put down the orange, I'll be placing more orange dye down. I find that if you just put a lot of dye down somewhere where there's not any other dye next to it, it may be a little bit easier for the dye to migrate into those white sections. Now I'm doing green, and when you have all the colors down, then it'll want to go just straight down into the shirt more than spread out along the width or the horizontal section of the fold. There was blue. I'm going to do some more purple. I try and shake up my bottles as much as I can. So I'm going to turn it over, and it looks good to me. I can see where the different colors are. So now I'm going to do the rainbow, but instead of putting black down next to everything, I'm going to wait until the end to do that. So here's some red. I'm going to put red here, and then red here. And this is approximately where I put down that color previously. I can tell just from the edges, the top edge and the bottom edge, I can see where, in this instance, the orange is. It's here and here, so I'll put orange right there, kind of connecting them. Then there's a little bit of orange that needs to go down here. Now some yellow. And once again, I'm just going to put the yellow approximately where I put it on the other side of the shirt. But if it's not exactly where I put it, it'll give it more of a tie-dye effect than if it was precisely where the color was on the initial side where I dyed. Now some turquoise. And then raspberry. Well, I missed a little bit of yellow over here, so let's put that on. And now I will be placing down the black along this side of the shirt. I'm basically putting black down where I put black on the other side. I was playing around with this kind of idea of dyeing this last fall, and I really liked the results that I got out of it when I did the black this way, or any dark color. I'll probably try and do one with green and blue and navy later, and then I'm gonna give this a quick squeeze just to try and get the dye down as far down into the shirt as it can. I'll give my hands a quick wash, and then I'll grab a bag and put this in a bag, and it'll sit for 24 hours before I wash it out. I believe that I will be opening up and washing these shirts on Thursday, and I may try and do a live stream of me opening up the shirts. But that piece is all done. Now I will, sorry if it's a little noisy with the water and everything, but I'm going to wash off or rinse off my rack. Alright, I'll take off my gloves and switch cameras back to my tying area, and I'll grab another shirt and I'll do some more dyeing or tying. So let's move you over here. Hopefully that is enough for you. So I have another shirt right here. And I'm turning it inside out, and I'm just trying to get the sleeves and everything just as perfectly even as I can get them. Fabric kind of has a flow to it, and it's not always going to be perfectly on top, but the more you just kind of fidget with it and I try to make sure that the seams are all kind of even and on top of each other. It normally doesn't completely work that way, but yeah. I just try and get it the best as I can. So for this one, I believe that I'm going to do this particular design. So I have some washable markers, and what I'm going to do is start from the bottom, and I'm going to just kind of sketch out a line kind of like that. If you can really see it, let's see if I have a darker marker. That's going to go right up like that, and I'm going to do a series of fan folds along the width of the shirt, going up in this fashion. And they're not the same fan folds I did on the last shirt. They are going to be a little bit bigger and not as even. Normally I try and get the fan folds all the same height, and with this one, as I'm doing the somewhat curve in it, there will be one side that's a little bit higher than the other side depending on which way the curve is going. So as I'm, for this particular instance, this side, the curve will be a little bit higher than this side, and that will allow the fabric to make this angle. If I did them all at the same height, I basically keep on going in a straight line. And so as I change the height on each fan fold, it will kind of lend itself to a curve. So here is that. I'm gonna grab some rubber bands. Oops, that rubber band just broke. So let's see if I can find a better rubber band. I'm going to start with the rubber band right here. And then I'm just going to rubber band going out. And I'm going to try and secure as much of the fabric or get it just nice and bound as I can. It's okay if there's a few loose ends, but the less loose ends the better. So there's that one. Now I'll do this side. I'll get some more rubber bands on it. I'm going to do the rainbow on this shirt as well. I talked to the person that wanted these shirts, and they will basically wear any kind of color scheme or anything else that I do for them. So it's kind of nice. I'm not too they're not too strict as to what colors they wear or anything. They just like tie-dye, so they just kind of give me free reign. So here is this piece all folded up. So let's go dye it. Come on over to my dyeing station. Let me get my gloves on. I hope you're having a great day. There was a little bit of fresh snow in my yard today when I woke up, and it seemed like it's basically been snowing most of the day. So that's always fun. But I have my gloves. I have the rainbow right here in front of me, and I'm going to start off with red. I think I want to do red on this side, and then go all the way to purple over here. So here is some red. I'm going to do this a little bit wider than I'm going to do the other colors, just because there's not as much fabric right here. I want to go most of the way through the shirt. I don't want just a little section of red and then the rest of the rainbow. Sometimes when I'm doing fan folds, I want all the colors to take up the same amount of space on the shirt. A lot of fan folds are a lot more even than what this particular design is. So I just put some orange down. Now I'm putting some yellow down. And this is Procion MX Fiber Reactive Dye. I mixed it about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago. So I just put some yellow down. Now some green. I think I'm going to put down a little more yellow as well. There's the green. I hope everything on the stream is working. I am not paying as much attention to it as I should. I would rather pay more attention to my dyeing than this kind of technology stuff. So there, I'm putting turquoise down now. And for these big bottles, I use about 5.5 tablespoons of dye for a 32-ounce bottle. And then for this section, I'm just going to do it all with this raspberry. On the 16-ounce bottles, I use about 9 teaspoons. So for the 32-ounce, I use about 5.5 tablespoons. And then for the 16-ounce, I use approximately 9 teaspoons. And I kind of did the math on that, and that's about equal amounts. 16-ounce bottles are about half as much as the 32-ounce bottles. So I turned it over. I'm just going to do the same colors on this side as I did on the other side. I'm going to not put them exactly in the same locations on this side of the shirt. There will be a little bit of an overlap with these colors, partially because I had excess room here that I used more purple than I did on the other side, but also when you give it that overlap, you get more of a tie-dye effect. So there's yellow. Now I'm going to put down some green. And the green will go over into the blue a little bit. I'm going to put down some blue. Alright, now some purple or raspberry. Alright, that looks good to me. I'm going to put this in a plastic bag. And then I just have some shelves over here that I put my finished pieces in. And they will batch there for 24 hours before I wash them out. I am going to rinse off my rack really quickly. Alright, that looks good to me. Dry off my gloves a little bit. Take those off, and then I will switch cameras and go back to my tying table. Grab another shirt. I'm going to be turning this inside out. I don't really like switching back and forth between the tying stuff and the dyeing stuff, so I think I'm going to be folding a couple shirts at a time before I swap back and forth over. For consistency, I thought it would be a little bit better to tie and then dye, but it just seems like it's taking a little more work than I want to put into it. So With this design, I'm going to take each half of the shirt and kind of fold those in half independently of each other. So it'll look something about like this. And I'll know more as I fold this side up. That looks even enough. I'm gonna turn it around and I'm just going to fan fold going straight up the shirt on this design. I've gotten some kind of fun effects with this. It kind of tricks the eye because it'll be how I'm going to place the die. It'll be symmetrical here and here, but it's not symmetrical in the center of the shirt. And it's just kind of fun. It's something a little different. And there's other variations on this fold. I think the next fold that I do will be another variation of this, but I'm just fan folding straight up as I can. And as I get into the sleeves, and then all these shirts that I'm doing are pocketed, there will be more fabric right in this section than this section down here, and I'll kind of have to put down a little more dye into this area when I'm dyeing it, and I just have to kind of remember that as I go into it, because this has, you know, right here it has about twice as much fabric as it does down here. And the folds will end up being a little bit bigger. I'm trying not to make them any taller, but just because there's more fabric because of the sleeves and the pocket and everything, I'll end up with a little bit bigger fold. So that looks good and folded to me. Now I'm going to put some rubber bands on it. One more rubber band around here. Alright, now I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to work on another shirt. I'm going to start by turning it inside out. Trying to match the front of the shirt with the back of the shirt. It doesn't always happen, just the way that shirts are constructed. They don't always have exactly the same amount of fabric on the front as the back. I don't really know how that works. That's just kind of my interpretation as I fold shirts. Sometimes they're definitely equal front and back. Sometimes they are not so much. But here is this, and now instead of going straight up, I'm going to do it just at an angle. So I'll start down here in the bottom section, and I'll just start fan folding up at a diagonal. And you could take a ruler and a washable marker and sketch out the angle that you want to fold the shirt at, and you can do multiple marks with the washable marker, but I'm not going to do that, and maybe I should, as I'm showing you how I'm doing this. I'm not completely concerned with what angle or having it at a consistent angle as I'm folding this up and dyeing the shirt. It's gonna be okay. I don't really know how to describe it. It'll turn out colorful. And this is the same initial fold as I did on the previous shirts. It'll just be slightly, it'll look different as I put the dyes down on it, just because of how I'm doing this part of the folding. And the fabric gets very thick right in here. And then I'm also dealing with these shirts that I'm folding up right now have pockets in them. And the pocket adds that much more fabric to the fold, and so it ends up getting a little bit thicker. It can kind of change the flow of the design. But now I'm going to grab some rubber bands and start rubber banding it up. I'm going to start down on this bottom section, and at the very bottom I'm just going to kind of combine the very edge of the shirt up to a couple of inches, inch and a half or so, and that just kind of makes the dyeing a little bit easier on the shirt. I'm going to do it on this side as well, so I'm just going to kind of go like that. Alright, now I need to get a rubber band along this middle section. And then rubber band this section. Oh, that rubber band just broke. So I'll set that aside, and oh, that rubber band just broke, so let's try it with a smaller rubber band. And this one may break too. This, with the center of some of these longer folds, it kind of gets a little difficult to put rubber bands on when you're on one of the last rounds of, as I kind of fold the rubber band up around the shirt. Towards the end of the rubber band, it can get a little tight on the rubber band to get it along this section. If I'm just looking for something that's about this wide, but I have to stretch it all the way around here, I can go through a couple rubber bands to be able to do that. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to grab one more shirt, and then I think I'll do some dyeing. and I just have a bunch of shirts sitting right. Actually, I'll do two more shirts. I have a couple shirts, or a rubber tub full of shirts. And this design, I've done a couple times, and I just really like the effect when I get it just right. So I folded the shirt inside out, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the top, and I'll start on this section right here, and I'm just going to start rolling it together, and it'll go all the way down to that bottom corner down there. And it's not a super tight roll, it's not too loose, it's fairly loose. So there's that. Now I'm going to start rolling it from the sleeve around, and I'm basically just going to put a couple colors on this design. I have a medium blue and a darker blue that I'll be putting on here. And when I do it just right, it just kind of looks like water almost. So there is that design. And now I have possibly a shirt for me. It's a collared shirt. I believe that I'm going to do the same fold to it. So it's inside out. I'm going to start on this sleeve, and I'm just going to start rolling it up. I want the base of the shirt to be darker than the top of the shirt. In my sense of fashion, I like if it's a little bit lighter up towards the head than down towards your pant line. So this has been rolled up. Now I'm going to roll it this way, and I'm starting with the sleeve on the center. And now I'm going to put a couple rubber bands on it. Alright, so I have 4 shirts that are ready to be tied up or dyed up. So I'm going to change my setup for my dyeing area. I'm going to get some gloves on. I'm not sure how long these gloves are going to last me. It kind of feels like as I take them on and off, the more times I do that, they may break a little bit sooner on me, and it's okay. I have a couple extra gloves lying around here. If they do break, I just don't really want them to be breaking on me. So I have this shirt that was the first one that I folded up, and I have the rainbow in front of me. So I'm going to start with red. I'm going to put it along this edge right here. Hopefully you can see that okay. I'm putting a fair bit of dye down. Then I have some orange that I'll be putting next to the red. And basically I'm just going to be doing the rainbow on this design. I'm going to skip the yellow for right now. I'm going to put down some green next to where the yellow would be. Putting a fair bit of green down. Now I have some blue, and I'll be putting some blue down. I'm trying to get enough dye to so it migrates through the fabric, and I'll be able to see it on the other side when I flip this piece over. There's some purple or raspberry. Now I'm just going to repeat the rainbow. So red, then orange. I'll start off basically right next to the red, and then I'll just kind of let the orange go kind of sideways across the fabric. I'm going to skip the yellow, and I'm going to do some green next to where the yellow should be at or would be at. And then I'm going to end off this side with some blue. There's some green. Now I have some blue. There is that. Now I'm gonna give these a quick squeeze. And you can rinse off your hands before you do the squeeze. Sometimes it's easy to get like the blue and the green and the purple over onto the orange and the yellow, and that can stain your shirt in the wrong color if you're not too careful with it. So you can rinse off your hands if you'd like. So now I'm going to repeat the dye progression on this side. So there is some red, now I'm doing some orange, and then I will be omitting the yellow, and I'll do that right at the very end of the dyeing session, and I'll end up putting yellow on both sides of the shirt. So here's some green. And now some turquoise. And then raspberry. Oh, I got a little bit of raspberry right there where I'm going to be placing the yellow. And that just kind of happens. There's not much that I can do about it now. If I was a little more careful when I was lifting the purple up to put the lid on, it probably wouldn't have happened. But, you know, tie-dye is just nice and colorful that way. So here is some orange. Then I'll do some green next to where the yellow would be if I was had put down the yellow, but I'm saving the yellow for last. And then some turquoise. I try and give my bottles a good shake every so often, just to make sure that if any of the dye has settled down to the bottom of the bottle, I can just kind of get it all homogeneous again inside the bottle. So I do a fair bit of shaking. Now I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to put yellow down on this side. Alright. That looks good. I'm going to give it a quick squeeze just to try and get the dye, make sure that the dye is all the way in the center of the shirt. You can also open up the folds and peek in them to see how far you have dye saturation. And as I did that, it looked good. So I'm going to put it in a plastic bag and put it on my curing shelf, and it'll sit for 24 hours before I wash it out. Well, if you'd like to know what kind of colors I have, I can tell you. But basically, all I use for my dyes are I buy them from either Dharma Trading or from Grateful Dyes, and I mix them with water. I don't use anything else. Here, let me move this up just a smidgen. How's my voice next? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I don't talk a whole lot, and that yeah, it was sore that night, but it wasn't like I was at a rock concert or anything like that. So for this design, I have some Brilliant Blue that I've mixed with water. It's at a half dilution compared to the rest of the dyes that I use. I'm gonna put it on this side fairly heavily. So this is kind of one of those boring parts of tie-dye where I'm just going to be doing basically the same thing. There's not a whole lot that I can say about this that I can think of. I'm just trying to get the dye about halfway or more through this design. If there's white in this design, that's okay. White, I consider white a color on certain designs. Sometimes it takes away from the effect, but for this effect, I think that white kind of adds to it. So that looks pretty good. I don't really have an online shop. I have a little shop in Roslyn where I live in Washington State, and to have an online shop to me would mean that so really quickly, I have navy, and I'm going to be putting navy down on this side, and I'm going to turn it over and put navy, a little bit of navy on the other side. To have an online shop, I would need a second round of inventory to sell in the shop. If I don't really grasp how to have how to have stuff in my shop and have those same items online, if that makes sense. How many shirts am I doing today? As much as I have dye for. So I have an order from a friend for 12 shirts, and they're extra large shirts with pockets. So I don't know if I have enough dye for all 12 shirts, but I have 4 of them done right now that are all dyed up. And then I have a couple shirts, a couple kids shirts that I'm doing, and I have a couple shirts for me that I'm doing. So however much dye I mix up, and hopefully the water, the faucet noise isn't too loud for you guys and gals, for anyone watching. Well, thank you. I have a lot of fun doing this, and there's still a lot that I haven't learned yet, or that I haven't experienced yet in this art. But yeah, I get bored when I do the same thing over and over again. So thank you. So this design, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I have a Brilliant Blue dye that I have at half dilution. So most of my other dyes, for a bottle this size, which is a 32-ounce bottle, I use approximately 5.5 tablespoons for a 32-ounce bottle, and for this 32-ounce bottle, or for this color, I use about 2.5 tablespoons. And I'm just trying to put on a bunch of dye on here evenly across this side of the design. That looks pretty good. The other color that I do this with is fuchsia, and both of those colors are Dharma colors. So I put some brilliant blue on this side. Now I'm going to turn it over, and I have some navy. I'm just going to put some navy on this side, then I'll turn it over and I'll put navy on the other side. I'm not putting as much navy as I did the brilliant blue. And these dyes, I mixed them up at right around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, I have a wholesale account, and so it makes it a little bit easier for me to purchase shirts, but I apologize for that. How much do shirts cost in Germany? Well, okay, so I kind of understand that as far as selling shirts online. But what happens if it sells online before I notice it, and then somebody buys it in my shop? I don't really, that's one of those things where having the same inventory in two different places doesn't work for me. Because if I have shirt A online, but shirt A sells in my shop, then the person that bought shirt A online would have to make it, or I'd have to make another one for them, and it may not be the exact same as what they're looking for. One of the things with tie-dyes is that not every one is going to be the same. And yeah, thanks for making it in. I'm probably going to be dyeing for another few hours, I would assume. So a 20 euro shirt is just a cheap Chinese made product. Well, that's unfortunate. I think you can get a 3-pack of t-shirts in America for $10, maybe, depending on where you're looking. And a lot of the t-shirts that I use are almost considered like undergarments. But okay, so for this design, I will just be placing the rainbow across the whole thing, and I don't know how many different times I'm going to be putting the rainbow down. It'll probably go at least twice along through it. Oh yeah, see, I don't have that software, and I don't really know if I would have the time to set it up completely like that. I'm more worried about making tie-dyes than programming software. And granted, I'm doing this, which takes up a little bit of time, but I don't have a good inventory system set up in my shop. So I'm going to put yellow down on this side as well. Normally I wait and put yellow down last, but for this one I'm not. It varies as I go from shirt to shirt. A lot of times, especially if like I'm doing the rainbow spiral, I'll put the yellow down last, and I can already see the green creeping in to, I don't know how well this is going to zoom in, but the green over here is kind of already getting into the yellow. But sometimes I need to just kind of experience how the fabric or how the dye flows into the fabric. And yeah, I've spent hours and hours doing that stuff with just software, trying to learn different software. And it's, I don't know, it's more frustrating than it is helpful. I don't mind not having an online shop. I kind of do this stuff instead of online things, and I know that it's not the same, but really you have to be in person to see a shirt. I've kind of looked up a lot about how to get accurate colors and whatnot on a photograph, and just the amount of different colors and variations on tie-dyes. It's really difficult to accurately depict the different colors that are on a t-shirt. What are my favorite shirts to dye? Probably just adult t-shirts. I have kind of gotten more towards ring spun cotton than combed cotton, but I like shirts that are true half and half, as far as like the front and the back are completely even, and the folding, that makes kind of the folding easier. I like doing mandalas on different shirts and tapestries. I think the mandala is kind of, they take a lot of work, but they're the most fun design to fold up. There's a lot of different variations on how you can tie them up to get different results. They're all mandalas, but there's a lot of different ways that they can look. I have several different kind of mandalas on the top right of the screen. I have about 300 different images that I put into a slideshow for you guys to look at if you get bored watching the rest of the screen, like that little pumpkin there, or jack-o'-lantern. So I'm not sure. I think that I will be able to put one more round of the rainbow on this shirt. So I'll have 3 rainbows going down it. And in my shop, I just have a simple cash register that I use. It's not connected to a, like, I know some people that their register system is on an iPad or another kind of tablet device, and I definitely don't have that kind of stuff. You know, my shirts in my shop will just end up costing more the more time I put into each shirt, and I'd rather just spend as little amount of time on each shirt. Once I've tied a shirt up and dyed it and washed it and opened it up, I'm done with that shirt, and I'm kind of ready to move on to the next design. But let me put this raspberry on. Let me see. You like shirts with light colors, not a fan of deep or dark colors? You know, it's all on your idea of what you want. I definitely make shirts with dark colors. I'll make shirts with light colors as well. I think for this side, I'm going to put the yellow down last. and see what that does. I've talked to tie-dyers that they never use brown or earth tones in their shirts, and I've talked to people that that's all they wear is earth tones. So for me to work on different designs and stuff, I'd rather not be limited by what colors I use. And some shirts will have all the colors, like that, or not all the colors, but they'll have the rainbow on them. And then other shirts I will do with just one or two colors. And yeah, there's, each shirt's one of a kind, if you will. Even if it's just all a bunch of white shirts, basically you're only going to be wearing one shirt at a time. So it's just all a lot of individual preference. And so to meet that, I try a bunch of different colors. But I'll go through not stages, but different dyeing sessions. Some I'll do the rainbow, some I'll just have blues and greens. Sometimes I'll just do a session of pinks and purples, and then maybe like the turquoise. And then sometimes it'll just be a bunch of earth tones, and it makes the dyeing a little bit quicker at a time. If I'm dyeing for 8 hours, that's a fairly long session. If I'm dyeing for 4 or 5 hours, that's a little more doable. It's not quite as exhausting. The last live stream that I did, I was very exhausted by the end of it. And I could definitely tell that was about the max amount that I could live stream. I quit early and dyed everything that I hadn't dyed on the live stream just by myself without the camera on me. It was a little bit easier. And yeah, a lot of people love the rainbow. So now I put down the rest of the colors. Now I'm putting down yellow. And that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to put it in a plastic bag and put it on my dyed shelf, and it'll sit for at least 24 hours before I wash it up or wash it out. I think I'm going to have another live stream of me opening these up this Thursday at about 3 p.m. or so. I'm not going to wash them out tomorrow. I don't know how late this is going to take me, and I'm going to end up taking a few breaks here and there. I need to go on I think I'm just about ready to have a little bathroom break. I've only been tying stuff up for an hour, but I need to go to the bathroom, so I think now is a good time for me to take a quick break. I have some kids' clothing, t-shirts that I plan on dyeing next, and maybe even a hat. So please stick around, and I'll be back in about 5-6 minutes. And as far as an alert, I have no idea how that kind of stuff works. I apologize. I'm still kind of working out the kinks on how to do live streaming, if that helps today. But good thing you made it. I'll be back in 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. Alright, well, I'm back. Let's get my tying set up all ready. Let me get my apron on. I have a couple kid shirts that I want to do. I have two nieces that their birthdays basically coincide on about a month from each other, so I just kind of give them their birthday shirts at the same time. And so I have a 2T and a 4T. I'm going to do a couple hearts and then some other designs. And I have some hats that I want to do, or at least one hat. I may get to the second hat, or do the second hat at the same time, but so I have this shirt. I folded it inside out, and then I'm folding it in half. And with these shirts, they have seams on the side, so it makes it a little bit easier to get everything to line up theoretically. That looks good, and I just looked outside and it is snowing. It's just beautiful right now outside, so I have a washable marker, and the top of the neck, since the back of the shirt, the neck's a little bit higher than the front of the shirt, I will be, I know where that is, and I'm doing the heart fairly close to the neckline without actually getting into the neckline. And I'm just sketching out a heart. And so that looks good. Now I'm going to fan fold up the line that I just sketched. While trying to keep all 4 layers of fabric together. I've definitely had some hearts that didn't quite turn out as much as hearts, just because the fabric kind of flowed more than I wanted it to. And I'm going to grab some rubber bands. I'm going to try and find a short one. I find that when I fold the shirt inside out, it's a little bit easier to wash it without another shirt back staining it. So when these are in the washer and this shirt goes onto this shirt, it'll just, if it's gonna stain, it's just gonna stain the inside of the shirt. It normally won't go all the way through to the right side of the shirt. It'll just be on the inside of the shirt. And now I'm just going to somewhat continue these fan folds out along the rest of the shirt. And for this design, I will basically be having the whole background of the heart as one color. So I don't really care if it's too perfect. I could do a faint or a crinkle fold on this design as well, but just doing this loose fan folding, it's makes it go by a little bit quicker. And also, when I'm dyeing the shirts, when they are inside out, I get a more even dyeing of the outside of the shirt. So there's 4 layers of fabric here, and as I fold it in half, there will be 4 layers of fabric. If I don't put as much color on one side as the other, it can really affect the finished piece. when you're dealing with symmetry. If it was just a front and back of the shirt, then it being inside out doesn't really matter. But when it's folded in half, with the front and the back together, it can there can be somewhat large variances from the left side to the right side of the design. And when it's folded inside out, those variances are minimized, if that makes sense. So, for example, with this piece, the back on this side compared to the back on this side, if I put blue only on this side and I put purple down on this side, let's say, when I open it up, there can be a lot more blue on this half of the shirt than on this half of the shirt. And I don't know if that completely makes sense for this particular design, but I've kind of played around with some symmetrical zebra stripes, and one side on the back, it didn't really look like zebra stripes. They were just a little too much off. There was, just large segments of white on one side and then larger segments of black on the other side. So by folding it inside out, I'm somewhat minimizing that. And let's see, you dyed 5 shirts since my last live stream. Awesome. I hope that you had fun with the 5 shirts and the ice dyeing. I don't mind ice dyeing, but it just takes, a little bit longer to work on each piece and to get the ice to dry or to melt. So I don't do it as much. It's a fairly, maybe not labor intensive design, but it is more time consuming per each piece. Where the shirts that I've already folded up and dyed today, they're in a bag, they're sitting on each other, and with ice dyeing, I don't really see how you can do that. I would need more space to do ice dyes. So here is another heart that I just sketched up, and I am fan folding along the line that I just drew. I'm going to use a rubber band to bind up this line. I'll use the rubber band to go along the rest of the heart too, to kind of bind in that fabric. I didn't do it on this piece, but I could have. And now I'm going to do a loose crinkle fold for the rest of this shirt. And with kids' shirts, it's kind of difficult for me to just get really intricate results. There's just such little fabric that I'm dealing with that it makes it almost difficult to bind everything up and get it all kind of squished together compared to an adult t-shirt. So there's that one. Now I have one more kid shirt that I'll be doing basically the same thing on. These shirts are just barely damp. Like, as I put them on the table and move them around, I don't really feel any residual wetness on them. I put them, so when I get a shirt, I will wash it out in the washing machine before I soak it in soda ash, and then after I soak it in soda ash, I'll spin it out in a washing machine and collect the excess soda ash solution that comes out, and then I will put them in the dryer for about, depending on the fabric, but for about 15 minutes or so, and then on a low heat in the dryer for about 15 minutes. I will turn off the heat and let it spin in the dryer for a while, and then I'll come back and check it in 20 minutes or so. And with these, I left them in the dryer and turned it on low heat again, and did the low heat for about 5 minutes, and then came back and turned off the heat and let them spin for about another 20 minutes or so to get the dampness that I wanted. If they're too damp for me, I don't get quite the dyeing results that I want. If they're too dry sometimes, I don't get the desired results that I want. So I have my spray bottle filled with water, and if they're too dry, then I can use the spray bottle to get them wet again. And when I do that, if they're already folded and they're too dry, then I will use the spray bottle to get them damp again, and then I'll let them sit for a period of time to let the moisture kind of go into it. If I have a bunch of shirts that are folded up in a plastic tub and the lid's off, then I try not to do that. I try to make sure that there's not a lot of air circulation in the tied pieces, just so I want the entire shirt to have the same amount of moisture content all the way through it. So let me see if I can find my hat, or one of the hats that I'm going to dye. Okay, it's right on top. And I'm just going to do a crinkle fold on this hat, starting from the center. And with this kind of bucket hat, the brim is thicker than the rest of the shirt, and I just have to kind of keep that in mind as I'm folding it up. It can, sorry if you can't really see it, the brim being a thicker material, it may end up that the fold is a little bit deeper on the brim than the rest of the hat, and that can play with the dyeing. And it can also just kind of overtake the center of the hat. If the center of the hat has or any kind of material or shirt, if the center is too fine compared to the outer area, then you can lose the center, or whatever. The thinner material can just be overtaken by the thicker material, and then you can kind of lose how the dye penetrates it. But here is the hat. I'm gonna do 2 more kids shirts, or 1 more set of the 2T and the 4T kids shirts. Yeah, most of the time I use rubber bands. I find that artificial sinew, since I don't reuse it, it's just one of those parts of the process that I would rather reserve for more intricate designs like peace signs, guitars, the jack-o'-lantern, turtles, mandalas, and I'm just doing a crinkle fold on this shirt. Sometimes when the shirt is more wet, it makes crinkle folding and some of the other folds a little bit easier to do. But then I would want to dry it out before I dyed it. But the folding can be a little bit simpler when you have a wet shirt compared to a dry shirt. Sometimes a dried shirt, the fabric has a better memory and it'll want to kind of go back to being flat, where a wet shirt or fabric won't have as much memory and it will hold on to the fold that you give it a little bit easier. But then the dye may not react the same to a wet shirt compared to a dry shirt. I've definitely had dried pieces that the fabric or the dye just beads up and just rolls off the dry fabric. But if the fabric's too wet, then the soda ash or the excess soda ash solution that's in the fabric can kind of resist the dye and not let the dye go through the fabric because of the excess solution that's in the shirt. Especially if you have really thick fan folds, the dye sometimes won't go in, and I would say that's why some people have white in their tie-dyes. Another reason is that they're just not adding enough dye initially to get the fabric or to get the dye to go all the way through the shirt. They just see the top of the shirt or the top of the fabric is colored with dye, and they just assume that the dye has gone all the way through the piece, when in fact it hasn't. I almost like to think that however much fabric you have, you need that much dye to dye the piece completely. So if I have 4 ounces of fabric, I need, give or take, 4 ounces of dye. It's not going to dye with half an ounce of dye. And to a certain extent, I would say that, what would I say? A flat piece of fabric would take more dye than if it was all folded up nicely. I don't know if that's completely true, but that's kind of my experience. If the fabric's all balled up into one really tight compressed thing, that may also take more dye than if it was just evenly kind of folded. But so I have these pieces all folded up. Let's move to my dyeing station and let's dye them. Move that up a little bit. Hopefully you can see okay. So my camera moved around a little bit, so let's try and get that on the rack. So I have these two hearts to dye up, and I'm going to start with raspberry. I'm going to give the raspberry a good shake. I'm going to put raspberry on the heart. I'm going to try and keep the raspberry just on this side of the rubber band that designates the heart from the washable marker and the fan folds that I did. And then I'm going to use a little bit of turquoise, and I'm going to put that on the other side of the heart, and I'm just going to put the turquoise on one side. Or I'm going to put more turquoise. I'll put more turquoise on this side, and then just a thin line of it on the other side. And I've gotten some really neat, almost highlighted hearts from doing that. And now I have some fuchsia that I've mixed at 50% dilution compared to the majority of the rest of the dyes that I have. I'm going to put fuchsia along the rest of the design. I'm probably going to do this with the crinkle folds as well. So, and then I will layer this with some raspberry after I get the dye all the way on it. So for this dye in this 16-ounce bottle, I used approximately 4 teaspoons. Normally for a 16-ounce bottle, I would do 8.5 or so teaspoons, but I've found that when the fuchsia is at the ratio that I do the rest of the dyes, it gets very thick and it's really hard to get it all mixed in with the water. So there'll just be some dye that is still kind of powdery in the water that is really hard to mix in all the way. So when I dilute it at half, it's a little bit easier to work with. And so I'm just putting a little bit of raspberry on top of the fuchsia. And then those pieces are all done. I will put them in a plastic bag, and for these I'm just going to set them on top of each other like that, and then put them in the plastic bag. And I'll try to wash these out separately than the rest of the designs that I do. When I work with fuchsia, out of all the other designs, it seems like that one has is the biggest culprit of dyeing the other shirts. The fuchsia is just a really hard color to wash out. If I had some shirts with white in them, I've had the fuchsia come in and stain the other shirts that had white in them, and then you end up with pink instead of white. And for me, I don't really want that in my designs. And I think I'm gonna be kind of boring right now, but I'm gonna do basically the same dyeing job on these two as I did with the last two. My little nieces like pink, and so I figured I'd give them a couple shirts that had pink in them. I'm also going to do some rainbow ones for them in a little bit. So there is the purple Now, actually, I'll do them a little bit different than the other one. So I'm going to do blue on this whole side. And then I'll turn it around and I'll do purple on, or fuchsia on the other side. And so for this turquoise, it's in a 32-ounce bottle, and I used approximately 5.5 tablespoons for a 32-ounce bottle. But I have a 32-ounce bottle of Brilliant Blue, and I mixed it the same as the fuchsia, so it was approximately 2.5 tablespoons for the 32-ounce bottle. And for that one, it wasn't so much that it is easier to work with, the diluted version, compared to the full strength version. It's more that I layer the Brilliant Blue, and now I'm using raspberry. I layer the Brilliant Blue with darker blues on top of it. I use it more as a background than just a straight up color. So these two pieces are done. Once again, I will set them on top of one another and put them in a plastic bag. And then I will let this sit for 24 hours or so before I wash it out. So now I have two more toddler shirts that are crinkled that I will be dyeing up, and then a hat before I tie up some more stuff. So let me just rinse off my rack really quickly. Try and get rid of some of this excess dye. So for this design, I will be putting a number of different layers down. So I'm going to start with fuchsia. I'm going to put fuchsia on this side. And then on this shirt, I will try to put the same amount of dye down. I'm almost done with this fuchsia, so this worked out pretty good. I don't like having just a little bit of color afterwards. I like to use all my dyes within 12 hours of mixing them with water. So now I'm going to do blue on this side. And sometimes with shirts, if there's a tag, it's good to lift up the tag and make sure that the dye went around it. Now I'm going to use the rest of the fuchsia on here. Maybe not quite the rest of it. Yeah, okay. So I use the rest of the fuchsia here. Now I'll turn it over. Wash off or use a rag to wipe my hands a little bit. Now I'm going to put a little bit of, I have Chinese red. I'll put some of that on here. Normally I do this color combination with hot pink, but I didn't make any hot pink this time. So then I put some blue or turquoise down, and now I'm using raspberry. I'll put raspberry on both sides. And I'm not using a lot of raspberry, but normally this is a really fun effect, and you can use a darker purple on top of this as well. I could even put some black down, and it wouldn't really show up as black. and I will be putting these in separate bags. There's a lot of dye on these, and I'd rather not have it soak into the other piece. So let me set this aside, and then I will grab the other plastic bag and do this one. And then I will rinse off this rack. Now I have the hat, and I'd like to get the full rainbow on this hat. The music is just I believe this one is a 20-hour collection of just guitar music that I found online. I don't know, I'd assume that it's royalty free and that I can play it on my video. But for these live streams, I haven't really figured out the best way to do music off of my computer. I have a few different sources that allow me to play their music, but I have to put their name and the song title and everything as each one plays, and I don't have any program that necessarily allows me to do that. So for this hat, I'm gonna do kind of a yellow, orange, red fire layer, and then I'm gonna do blue, green, and purple on the rest of it. So I put some yellow down, I put a little bit of orange down, and then I'm gonna put just a little bit of red, and then I'm gonna do green next to the yellow. I'll probably end up with some brown and whatnot in here, so I'm going to layer the whole thing with black on top. But there's green. Now here's some blue, and I'm going over the green a little bit, and then some purple just on this edge. And this raspberry has a little bit of turquoise in it, so if I do it just right, it'll bleed out to the blue. I think I put too much purple down, but I'll find out when I open it. So the yellow is saturated all the way through. I'm not even going to put any orange down. I'm just going to put some red down over that yellow and orange section, and then I'm going to just put a little bit of black over the whole thing. That looks good. Now I'll put it in a plastic bag. And set it aside, and it'll sit until Thursday and before I wash it out. I'm gonna rinse off my rack really quickly. Now I'm going to do a shirt for me. So let me take off my gloves. I'm always trying to think of new folds and new color combinations. So I found this color combination this last fall, or kind of the way that, oops. So let's move back over here to my tying area. There's a couple more steps to doing all this than just sitting by myself and doing it. Hopefully I don't forget too much, but Yeah, they're outlawing plastic bags in a lot of different areas. Uh, I I think Seattle or certain cities in Seattle have outlawed them, but um, I get my clothing racks and stuff in a place in Seattle, and they still sell plastic bags. And I've had some friends that I've talked to that will bring me their plastic bags from the grocery store when they have a bunch of them. So not look I'm looking forward to not being able to get plastic bags anymore, but on that same note, I'm not looking forward to uh, not using plastic bags. I can just have a bunch of racks like the one in on my sink and use that, and then just let the dye drip down uh, into like a tray or something, and then just wash out the tray. But so for this design, what I did was I took the shirt and I folded it approximately into thirds on the bottom, and I want this a little bit less than that. All right, right there. And then I did the same for the top. And when I fold it up, I will fold it up at an angle and not just straight up and down or left to right. I'm just going to be doing a series of fan folds or accordion folds along this shirt, and I'm not too concerned with them being exactly accurate, just as long as I'm not going straight up and down by the end of it. I've found some really fun effects in this fold, and then I'll be doing just a turquoise, green, and navy dye scheme, where I put the navy in between the turquoise and green. And those are some colors that I like to wear. They look good on me. I think that I can pretty much wear any color and it looks okay on me when I wander around town in full rainbows and everything. Nobody really says anything about it at this point. They freak out more when I don't wear any tie-dye and they don't recognize me. But I'll wear pinks and purples, blues and greens, rainbows, anything anymore. I think I was always kind of okay with wearing brightly colored stuff. I know I've had customers in my shop that have a son, and the son picks out a pink and purple shirt, and generally it's the dad that tells them that they can't wear that. And it's kind of sad. It's like, well, that's what your child likes to wear. I don't think that you should be that judgmental on that, but I also try not to tell people how to raise their children. Okay, you can buy plastic bags. They're just not around as much. Well, that's good. I see a lot of garbage on the streets and sidewalks anymore, and a lot of it's just plastic wrappers and whatnot, and it's, I don't know, a little dirty. I'd rather not see that much stuff just being tossed on the side of the road. Seems like people can't be bothered, and plastic, like pop containers or soda containers. So there is that piece all folded up. I'm gonna tie up. I have 2 more sets of kids shirts, so 4 more kids shirts. I'm gonna do. I guess I'm gonna fold all of them right now, since I have them. I hope that you guys can see everything okay. I'm not using the most state-of-the-art equipment. I only had 2 webcams during the last live stream. The webcam on my laptop, and then the webcam that I'm using right here. The webcam over my dying station is actually was given to me by a friend that got it at Goodwill for super cheap. So all my stuff is like at a max resolution of 480, and I know that some people are live streaming at 1080p now. There's 4K televisions and whatnot. I don't know if people can stream at 4K. But alright, good. And hopefully you can hear me and everything alright. That's probably my most inundated thing is my microphone. But it's like 3 feet away from me. Eventually I'd like to upgrade everything, but that'll involve a new laptop and amongst other things. So this is basically the same kind of fold that I did on the last live stream. And I will be doing a rainbow design on this fold as well. Maybe I just won't start with red on these. Good. Well, I'm glad that you can hear me okay. Hopefully I'm actually making sense and you can even understand me, let alone hear me. So there is that one, and that was a 4T. So this should be a 2T. And what I'm doing is I'm folding these inside out. And then I'm not going from the very corner, I'm going about an inch up from it to the shoulder. I believe that's the way that, well, yeah. And then I fold it in half from designating where I'm going to fold it in half, about an inch or so up from the bottom edge up to the other shoulder. I'm just doing a series of fan folds or accordion folds going up along that edge. And the folds are, for these shirts, they're about a half an inch. And then just finishing off the piece, I think is where some people aren't sure what to do, but I just kind of keep on folding and hopefully it comes out, or it comes together okay. It's not like half the piece is going to disappear if I don't fold it right. It'll just have some colors that aren't as even, but you know, nothing is even really in the world ever. Our eyes will, or our mind will trick our eyes into thinking things are even, but generally it's not, unless it's made by like a computer program. What design is my most popular seller? I don't know. I do a lot of spirals. A lot of people like the spiral. I do a nature scene design that people seem to really enjoy as well. So I'm going to do another heart with these, where I make the heart, I'll do a rainbow heart on these. But really, any shirt that I make seems to sell okay, and as long as it's in the right size and the right color spectrum for people, they seem to enjoy it. But each person has their own tastes. I live where the TV show Northern Exposure was filmed, and I've had customers come in and they've picked out different shirts for one of the actors or actresses. They totally picked out a couple different shirts and said that that particular, I think it was an actress, would wear that design. I thought that was pretty fun. Have I ever made a shirt I don't like? Yes. But sometimes the shirt that I don't think came out very well will be the first shirt that sells that weekend. And, it's just part of personal preference. Some people will see things that I don't see. I had a shirt that was folded like a peace sign, but the dyeing didn't really come out necessarily like a peace sign. But when the person saw it, they immediately thought of the peace sign and were just in love with it, even though I could barely even see the peace sign. Do I ever go to concerts in the sun? No, I don't. I haven't really taken my tie-dye on the road since I got my shop. Just not to say that I've had bad experiences, but loading and unloading a vehicle full of tie-dye, I've had times where it's very windy in an outside venue and dusty, and I've had to go home and wash everything before, and that's not fun. Rewashing just a load of tie-dye is very time consuming, and it adds to the total cost all around. I basically price them as the same even if I don't like them. And not to say that I don't like them. There's not really any tie-dye out there that I don't like, but just there's some designs that I wouldn't personally wear. I use a bright green, and I don't really wear that bright green in any of my shirts. I don't know why I don't like it. There's other greens that I don't mind wearing, but the bright green that I'm using right now is almost in none of my own personal shirts. Even though normally when I wear bright green, I have hazel eyes, and if I wear the right bright green or bright colors, my eyes will kind of change to a lighter color of hazel. But I just don't. So I'm using a washable marker to sketch this design. I'm doing a heart again, and then I fan folded as evenly as I could all the way out. I then kind of bring the shirt back into itself. These two shirts will have a rainbow on them. And so on this small of a piece of fabric, to make sure that I get a nice even rainbow, I'm not kind of shortcutting the fabric and folding it into itself as much as I do some of my other shirts. Then I'm putting a rubber band right along the line that I just folded from the sketch that I drew with the washable marker. And then I'm going to just kind of loosely fan fold these. It doesn't matter if they're not even fan folds. The dyeing will still work for it. Now some rubber bands. And the only time that I really price my stuff any differently is if the shirt itself isn't good. So if I have a shirt that has a hole, or some of the seams some of the stitching comes out, I will price it according to those issues. But if something's tie-dyed, then it's tie-dyed. It's nothing different than another piece that's been tie-dyed, if that makes sense. But I do price my shirts more based on the design than anything else. But I used to do farmers markets and stuff like that, and basically I was doing $15 t-shirts. Now that I have my shop, the prices have gone up a little bit. But when I was doing farmers markets, it was $15 shirts. Pretty much every design was $15. And depending on where you're at, the prices can probably vary. I would assume like a music festival would be a little bit more than like a barter fair. Or if I were to go to like Burning Man, I couldn't have any prices on my stuff. So for this one, I think I'm going to do a daishiki pattern. Or let me see. Okay, here's a fun design that you just kind of got to practice with. But what I do is I'll grab the shirt and I will kind of fold it up and kick it around a little bit, and then I will lay it flat and kind of check to see how the folds are. And I don't want too many folds going over each other, but I don't want to deal with too thick a material, and then I will just do a fan fold going up it. I've had some really fun results with this style of fold. And I can definitely feel where the pocket is on this one. It adds a little bit extra to the shirt. So that looks good and folded up to me. Now I'm going to put some rubber bands around it. I'm kind of looking for longer rubber bands right now, just so I can get around the material a little bit easier. This is a fairly big, wide, bulky fold, and the longer rubber bands are a little bit easier to navigate around the shirt. Alright, that looks good to me. Now let's switch over to my dyeing area. And let's see how well that works. I think the camera's on it, yeah. Let me get my gloves on. Where do I get my shirts from? I get them from, for the most part, Sanmar.com. They advertise to be the largest wholesaler of imprintable t-shirts in America. They have really quick shipping. If I order shirts by a certain time, I should get them by noon the next day. And I also have a Hanes account and an American Apparel wholesale account that I'll get my shirts from sometime. So, excuse me. I have this heart here, and I believe that I'm gonna start with purple or raspberry on the heart, and then I'll go out from there. And I want these two shirts to be similar, so I'm going to try and dye them at the same time. So I'm going to start with raspberry along the heart, and I'm just keeping it right along the rubber band line that I put on. And I'm going to actually just have them face each other like that. Now I'm going to go to turquoise. I'm going to put that on the other side of the rubber band line, and I'm going to just do these as one rainbow. I don't want too much excess coloring on it, so these rainbow lines are going to be fairly thick. I'm not going to try and minimize it and try and put a bunch of different colors on it. So there's green. Sorry if you can't see too well. It's kind of hard to get a good camera angle on this stuff as I'm doing it. Yes, all the pictures that are in the top right above me are shirts that I've done. That one was supposed to be a soccer ball, or my interpretation of a soccer ball. And it wasn't too soccery, but it was still kind of a fun idea to try out. So I'm going to omit the yellow right now, and I'm going to put some orange down. I'll put the yellow on at the end, after I've flipped over the shirts and put the rest of the colors on the other side. I'll put the yellow down. So now I'm doing some red. I'll put red on this one as well, and that will finish off basically, except for the yellow, this side of the shirt. Now I'll turn them over. I'll start off with purple. I'm trying to keep the purple just on the one side of the rubber band line. And then a few of these shirts, I don't really have them organized very well, but it'll be a picture of the front of the shirt and then the back of the shirt. And a lot of the pictures are just the front of the shirt, which should look about the same as the back. But as I looked up on my screen, I saw that it was a picture of the back of the shirt. And I have what I call a swervy spine that I'll do on the back of some of my designs. And they're not all shirts. The last one was a tapestry, and then that is the just a close-up of that same tapestry. It was a like a purple sunflower. So there are the shirts, basically all dyed. I just have to add some yellow now. I'll turn it over and add yellow on this side. Alright, that looks good to me. I will put these individually in plastic bags, and I'll throw them or set them in my dyeing curing area, my post-dye area. Alright, now I will rinse off my dyeing rack. Am I planning on posting any videos of mandalas? Yes. I'm not sure when I will get to it. It may be something that happens after the summer. I don't know how many videos I'll actually be making during the summer. I get a lot busier during the summer than I do the rest of the year. And I don't really want to do any mandalas on here just because my software isn't that great, and so the resolution isn't as good. I'd like to have the mandalas done on a little bit higher resolution than what you're seeing here. So hopefully I will be able to get some mandalas up. I'm just not sure when that will necessarily happen. And as far as other advanced designs besides mandalas, what were you thinking? Because I have peace signs, and I don't have like a guitar on a shirt, so I could probably do something like that, and you know, maybe more peace signs on shirts. I could do that in a video. But it seems like the more basic design that I do for a video, the more people will view it, just because a lot of people aren't necessarily looking for advanced designs that are searching on YouTube. They're more looking for, you know, they're beginners that want a just a beginner design. So I'm trying to come up with just a lot of fun, basic designs that I can show people how to do. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to put out some mandala videos. I get the most fun out of doing mandalas, and there's a few different ways to tie up a mandala to get different kind of patterns or results. So I'm not necessarily working on it, but I am thinking about it, and I plan on doing something in that regard. I'm just not sure when I will. So for this design, I'm just doing the rainbow across it, and then I will turn it over and I'll do the rainbow on this side as well. And this is almost like a sunburst. I don't know. When you see it opened up, it'll make a lot more sense as to what's really happening. But I really enjoy the results that I get out of this design. I've had some really fun ones. I'm leaving a bit of a gap for the yellow. I'm going to put the yellow down last on this side, even though I put the yellow down in order with the colors on the other side. And then there's some turquoise, now some raspberry. And now the yellow. I'll give this a quick squeeze just to try and make sure that the dye is going all the way in. And then I will put it in a plastic bag and put it in with the rest of the dyes, or the dyed pieces. I'm going to rinse off my dyeing rack, and then I will do my shirt that I folded up. And so for this one, I'll be putting green and turquoise down, and then I'll put navy down in between the greens and turquoises. So I'm going to start off with turquoise. I'm just going to put turquoise about in the middle. And then some navy right next to it on both sides. Now I have some bright green, and I will be putting bright green on both sides. Now more navy. Now some turquoise. I'll put a little more turquoise right in the center. Now more navy. Now some green. What are my store hours? Right now I have them at winter hours, so Saturday and Sunday from about noon to 4. And then I'm just at my house basically the rest of the time, doing tie-dye related things. I also do a little bit of screen printing. During the summer, I'll have a little bit longer hours, but right now I'm only open under 10 hours a week, unless I have my phone number on my door in my shop, and so if somebody calls me and wants to peruse my dyes, they can call me, and if I'm available, I can come down and meet them and open up my shop for them. Now I'm just kind of putting a little bit of dye down where I'd put the dye previously, just to make sure that I'm getting enough saturation. I'm going to put a little bit of navy on the end, and then I'm putting some green down to finish this off. Now I'm going to turn it over, and it's pretty much already all dyed and finished. That is fairly good saturation, and now I'm just going to put the blue and green down, and then I'll put the navy on top of that. So there's the blue, now some green. I could do the dye the same way that I put the dye down on the first side. I've just found that I get some interesting and kind of different results when I do it this way. So I'm finishing it off with some navy, then I'll give it all a quick squeeze. Alright, that looks good. Let me rinse off my hands, and I'll put it in a plastic bag. And then I'll let this sit for at least 24 hours, closer to 48 hours before I wash it out. Alright, now I have these two pieces to do, and I think I'll do them the same way as I did the heart. I think that I want to start with a raspberry, and then go from raspberry to red. So here is the start. The raspberry. Now I have my red. I'm putting a fair bit down on this side. For this one, I just want the rainbow on it once. I don't want to do a bunch of different rainbows. Even though as I'm dyeing them right now, I'm effectively doing two rainbows. I don't want to do a rainbow and a half. And I guess it's not technically a rainbow since the raspberry is next to the red. Normally and I'm gonna do yellow last on these. Normally the rainbow's red to purple, not purple to blue. But, you know, I'm not really worried about the particulars in this too much. And I may end up with just a little bit of raspberry at the end, and I think I will do that. Because that shouldn't look too bad. And it's a rainbow plus one. And I'm just kind of making these match because they're two sisters, and apparently if they like to have matching outfits. So I'm going to try and get them as similar as I can. So there is the raspberry. Now I'm going to do some red. Now some orange. I'm going to omit the yellow again. Hey there, Kaylin719. Well, I'm glad that I inspired you to tie-dye. I hope that you're having fun with it. I still have a lot of fun dyeing things up. I get my dye from either dharmatrading.com or from Grateful Dyes out of Colorado. And the way that I mix this stuff up is I filled the bottles halfway with water, and I just basically use room temperature water. And I have 32-ounce bottles, 16-ounce bottles, and then little 8-ounce bottles. And for the 16-ounce bottles, I use about 8 teaspoons of dye powder for a full 16-ounce bottle. For the 32-ounce bottles, I'll use about 5.5 tablespoons per 32 ounces of water. And then for the 4-ounce or the 8-ounce bottles, I use about 4 teaspoons per 4 ounces, 8 ounces of water. So the bottles are halfway full with water, and then I'll add the dye to them, and then I will come back, shake them up, and then fill them the rest of the way with water. And as I'm using the dyes, I will try to shake them to make sure that if any settling has occurred, I can kind of keep the dye from settling and use and just make sure that the dye is nice and homogeneous. There's not just a bunch of settled dye, because sometimes when the dye has settled and you have some dye in the bottom and then you turn it over, it will kind of come out chunky, and the powder can kind of sit on top of the fabric and it won't want to go into the fabric, and it can kind of spread out through the design. Oh, awesome, you're in Colorado? I'm not sure where Grateful Dyes is in Colorado, but I really like a few of their different colors, and yeah, I like Dharma's. I order a lot from Dharma, and I haven't played around or experimented too much with the Grateful Dyes, but I like Grateful Dyes yellow, orange, navy, black, and brown. And then my other colors I get from Grateful Dyes out of Colorado. But I think that's gonna do it for this dyeing round, you guys. I had a lot of fun. I have a few more dyes to use up, but I'm going to do those off camera. Where do I wash my shirts? I just wash them in my regular washing machine. I don't have a separate washing machine for that. It's where I do the rest of my clothing. I wash everything out 6 times. I will be opening up these shirts plus a couple more probably Thursday at around 3 or 4 p.m. I'll probably try and make a live stream of it. So thanks for watching, and have fun dyeing, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me.